Hey, hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Crypto Marketing Insights with me, Yasha Harari. And again, this is not a financial advice show. I'm not a financial advisor. I talk about marketing and its impact on blockchain and crypto. Of course, if you're doing any investing in crypto or blockchain, you should know what you're doing thoroughly before you invest because it's speculative and you may very well lose everything you invest. So don't invest in anything you can't lose. And do your own research and be responsible for your own actions and all that stuff. So this is an entertainment show, and these are my opinions. And here we go. Welcome to Crypto Marketing Insights. Have you seen what's going on? Have you looked at the markets? I think it was yesterday, the day before, we did a YouTube stream. We said it might dip or it might shoot up to 5K and then come back down a little. We'll see what's going to go on, but basically long-term, optimistic, bullish, whatever you want to call it, on this platform that we call crypto. And yeah, we basically, I guess called that that would happen. It was kind of obvious, not, there were a lot of smart traders and analysts who knew exactly a lot more details, if you will, but it just seemed very much like something was bound to happen within days. And yeah, there you go. It happened just a couple hours ago. If you look at the actual hourly charts, it was literally like 2-3 hours ago at this point. And it did go from around like 41.80 or so to about 46.73. Well, actually, it broke above $5,000. I'm just not showing it here on this little wick. I don't see here, but if you look at like the 15-minute wick, I think you might see it there. That it did actually get very close. Yep, it broke $5,076 is where we're seeing the line. $5,080 even. So it hit $5,080, shot back down to 4,958, where it closed the hour, and then basically traded down a little bit from there for the next hour. But if you look at it again at the hourlies now, we're sitting at 47.09, so it's come back down a few $100, right? Which is not insignificant, but it's still up about, let's see, from 41 to 47. It's still up a good, what was that, 5% or so, maybe a bit less actually. But yeah, it had a significant jump, almost 20%, like 15-18%, something like that, and within an hour, and then came back down. But that's a significant growth spurt to go from 4,100 and something to 5,000 and change. That is a $900 jump. Was that programmatic? There were no indicators of it that anyone's seen so far that suggested it would happen exactly then, but it happened. Could it have been a whale or a robot or a wash trade? I guess time and some crypto forensic analysis will tell. Asia obviously was fully trading in the trading day when that happened. Europe was still in its pre-trading hours, and the U.S. was, in its nighttime, overnight hours, so not regular trading hours. Of course, crypto is 24/7, which means there are no regular trading hours for it. It's just every hour is the same. It's always open. But in terms of usual activity we see, this likely happened in some place, maybe in Asia, the Middle East, Australia, New Zealand, somewhere like that. Maybe somewhere in Africa, maybe who knows. Wherever it was already the working day, I would start there with the big obvious possibilities and look at it from there. Now, what does all this have to do with marketing? Right? Why am I talking about a chart? I rarely ever show charts. Well, here, I won't show you a chart now then. I'll show you this meme. I found a meme on a place where I find a lot of memes, advice animals, and this one is about crypto. It's on Reddit, and it's just called BTC Black Swan. And if you're not looking at the screen, it pictures it depicts a black swan floating in the water, swimming in the water, with 1, 2, 3, 4 little gray ducklings following, or swanlings, no, ducklings following behind. And the title says, "When BS happens, alt ducks follow," which I find very appropriate for this situation. Like, when a black swan happens, alt ducks follow. And if you looked at the altcoins in general, you would have seen that they're also, up a little since this morning. So if you look at LTC went up as well. We'll get to why I'm talking about the particular charts in just a while. You can see here, Litecoin is at 67. It actually got to 68 or something during the high run. And yeah, it's doing all right for itself there. I'll just put this over here somewhere, whatever. And if you look at ETH, we'll just have a quick look at some of the bigger ones here, give you a sense of what's going on. Yeah, ETH is also at 149, and it actually reached 155, right, and 60 cents or something. So, and that's, again, a jump from 141 to 149. They've already gone up, what is that? That's $8. So it's, again, more than 5% increase, right? 5, 6, 7% increase. Not bad, 5% increase. You have to go back a little ways to find a leap that big in an hour. It's happened, obviously, but not in the recent days. And then again, if you pull back and take a look at the daily count, you can see that in ETH's case, it did actually happen in the beginning of March, so about a month ago. We had a jump that was even bigger, right? And percentage-wise, also even bigger, because it went from 125 to 136. Now, why am I talking about these numbers? What's the point, right? I'm not a chart analyst. I'm not a TA. I'm not suggesting anyone buys in or sells or anything like that, because I don't know your context, and everybody's portfolio and context is totally unique. So I think that's not my thing, and we all know that, right? But I do look at charts, obviously, because it's important to know what's going on, right? As a marketer, you always have to look at charts too. Well, the reason that it's important to look at these charts as a marketer is because, like I said in the recent video, if you were listening, is that we are seeing now the changeover from the bear market to the bull market. And as such, we have to prepare ourselves. We have to essentially, effectively, get our ducks in a row, which is another reason I find this picture with the duck or the swan so appropriate and relevant to today's context. This is the time, right, for putting in that energy and making sure that those tactics are in place and are happening. Because basically, that's what you do when things are starting to hop. You don't just sit around and wait for it. You have to actually get moving and get things underway. And if you haven't been doing that for the past year, well, I'm sorry to say, you wasted a year. We've been telling people, hey, for a long time, like, this is the time to get your marketing plan moving if you're in crypto, for the past year. But by now, you should already be in motion, right? If you're listening to this and wondering, well, I'm starting a new startup in crypto, am I too late? No, you're not too late. But if you've been in crypto or blockchain for more than a year, like before this bear market happened, and you were working on something that was a critically important and very valuable time to start doing some very important work. But if you're just starting a startup now, well, you are starting a little later than a lot of your competition, which means you have a lot of work to do. Fortunately, we're still at pretty much the bottom, right? Yes, We hit 5K. Okay, but our all-time high was 20. So we're still 75% down. Keep that in mind, right? That's a big jump, to go from 5 to 20. So you still have time to take advantage of a lot of growth potential before we get back up to all-time highs and then hopefully beyond that. But how much time? That really depends on the market, and you can't predict that. So as far as you're concerned, you should be doing everything due yesterday, essentially. Not haphazardly and chaotically, but with the bearing in mind that it would have been better for you to have done this earlier rather than now. So with extra gusto, right, you should be getting your marketing done. And of course, you can't force some things. You can't force Google to react. You can't force any search engine to do what you want. They do what they want. But you can prepare your efforts so that you get the fastest reaction possible from the engines, and you get the best deliverables made, and that you basically service your campaigns accordingly, because that's the only way you can assure that you can actually get growth during this time. But yeah, if you just, it's not a, what is this? Okay. Trading view. When will you stop being like that? I guess you won't. Yeah, well, this is not a show about that, so we really can leave that. But yeah, Bitcoin, Ethereum, all the coins that are moving up, Litecoin, whatever, that have moved up nicely over the past few hours. It's just an indicator, really, of, a motion happening in the market that was long overdue. And whether it goes up or down, like we always say, I always say, you can't know with 100% certainty. You can have a sense of which direction it's going, and you can also take a gamble, essentially, which is what investing is in many ways. So the same applies for your marketing strategies, right? You make the best educated guess you make. What that in effect means the smartest gamble you can do. It is a gamble, even if you're doing it with testing and data and everything else. You're still gambling on your supposition that your supposition will be the one that works, right? And whether it is or not is what is yielded in the data that you produce. So keep that in mind, right? When markets move like this kind of black swan event, it can significantly impact the market and bring a wash of consumers in. But when they are short-lived spikes, when all they are is noise nobody pays attention to, and definitely no one outside the industry will notice, if it's just a spike, and if it's not something significant, like as big as a 5% jump sounds, it's not going to be enough to bring in millions of customers. That's just not what's going to happen, right? 5K sounds like a good round number, but it didn't actually sit over 5. It broke 5K, but it came right back down. So it's not as if it really broke 5K. It did break 5K. Yes, somebody paid more than 5K for a Bitcoin or whatever. Somebody paid that price for Bitcoin. That doesn't mean that that is the price. That just means someone overpaid, right, for a little while to test something. Maybe they were trying to do something again. But it didn't last, which shows that the market knows its prices better than we can time them. It adjusts itself. And that's also part of the beauty of BTC. It also self-adjusts on a lot of other things, aside from the price, right? Like mining difficulty, right? That's a pretty big deal. And it knows how to self-adjust for that. And therefore, it always keeps essentially a thriving competitive market for as long as there is mining, which is, of course, a very finite thing. There will not be mining for most of the life of Bitcoin if Bitcoin will actually last more than, I don't know, a century or two. Will it? Who knows? Maybe not. But if it does intend to live for even a century, then it will, in theory, it will have been finished with mining before it reaches its half-life, which means for most of the experience of Bitcoin, there will be no mining. Right? Mining will be a thing that used to happen once upon a time, in the olden days, right? In the early days of Bitcoin. But then it will stop, right? So that's part of mining. That's part of the limited wealth generation one can count on if one is a miner. You know that there's a scarce resource, and you're trying to get as much of it out as possible before there is no more mining. Because what do you do when there's no more mining? Well, then you can be a node that gets paid transaction fees. And you can do that right now, by the way, by just hosting a node and earning, albeit minimal, but still transaction fees. And in the future, what you think of as minimal transaction fees now will be immense. So if you earn 0.0001 BTC at the end of the month for managing nodes right now, maybe you don't think that's a lot now, but in 10, 15 years when there's no more mining and Bitcoin in theory could be worth $1 million or more dollars, that's what we're talking. You might be earning tens of thousands of the equivalent of what is tens of thousands of dollars a month now in 10, 15 years, whatever that will be then. So, because the value of Bitcoin will have gone up so much. So, it could still be worth being a node, right? As a literal income source for a lot of companies. And mining, even though it will be a thing of the past for Bitcoin, will still exist for other coins, right? And also, even though in theory Bitcoin can never have more than 21 million Bitcoin, the fact is in reality it has, and it can always be changed again by humans who can essentially agree by consensus to change the code. And if they did that, you could, in theory, have more mining to be done. That would, of course, cause all the problems that we see with central currency that people don't like about central currency, like fiat currencies. And that would, of course, make everyone who's talking about Bitcoin as being this thing that doesn't have that problem, it would make it very awkward, right? Because then suddenly they would be supporting a currency that does the exact same thing that the current currencies they, trash talk are doing. But so far, Bitcoin has not done that. And it's been 10 years. And it's arguable that for every day that it doesn't do that, it's likely to not do that for another day, right? Because every day that it's done that, it has 24 more hours that it has proven its stability as a viable asset with a limited scarce resource, limited scarce supply, right? So, yes, in theory, the community could raise the number, but also in practice, in actuality, they have not. And it isn't as though they haven't had the opportunity to do so, right? They've had multiple opportunities to do so, right? And the Bitcoin core development team can really mess with a lot of stuff. Would you even be aware? Of course, changing something as essential as 21 million supply, everyone would notice. But there are other things that are happening in the background of development that if you're not a developer, you might not ever know. But they are changing Bitcoin, one little thing at a time in some ways, right? Adding layers is essentially changing Bitcoin. It's not changing the core layer necessarily on a big level, but it is changing the overall experience of using Bitcoin through Lightning and everything else. So, well, that's where I want to leave it today. Keep it short and sweet. Keep that in mind. If you're doing marketing right now of crypto, the market is a hopping. And that's crypto. It's very often volatile. You can't always predict that. That's why you shouldn't worry about, this is not the time to FOMO in. If you're a marketer, this is not the time to jump in and be freaking out. Like, okay, we got to spend X, all of our budget right now because everything's running. No. Be more patient. Breathe, observe, watch your strategy, hone it, constantly, tweak it constantly, work it constantly, test it constantly. But don't freeze and be a deer in headlights and die by doing nothing. And also don't jump in with the sharks when you're literally just a lame seal and you can't do anything. You know, like if you're just a seal pup, don't jump in with the sharks. Don't, and definitely do not invest your marketing resources or any other kind of resources into something as volatile as crypto the moment you see a big spike. Like that's extremely risky, and I'm not giving you financial advice at all, actually, even though that sounded like it, but I'm not. I'm talking about marketing. If you see a big spike in attention in the market, all of a sudden, like thousands of new companies are spending money on advertising because we just saw a massive spike today in crypto, and now everybody's rushing to get their crypto ads out, right? That is not the time to be rushing to the market to buy ads. They're all going to be overpaying for that ad space. They're all going to be overpaying for those links. They're all going to be overpaying for those emails. They're all going to be overpaying for that content, that guest blog, that whatever you put out there, right? Directory listings, graphics you get made, videos you get produced. They're all going to overpay right now because they see a spike. Don't be that guy or girl or gal. Invest your time wisely as a marketer. Make your emotions matter. You can sometimes get a lot done with moving faster by moving slower, right? Getting more of the important things done, not running around doing all the distractions that don't matter. Do just the important things, right? Focus on that, and your results will show it, that you focused on the important things. Yeah, of course you focus on other little details here and there to make everything polished. That's the point, but priorities. Start with the big things and work your way down to little things. And yes, of course, details matter, right? But it's hard to optimize details if you don't have the big thing in place, right? You can't optimize, you can't soup up your car or whatever, you can't pimp up your car, to use the contemporary colloquialism. You can't pimp up your car if you don't have a car to pimp up. So first, build that car, or get it, or whatever. Build it, rebuild it. Tear it down and rebuild it, and then you pimp it up, right? That's what they always do in those shows, right? That's the whole point. Same thing with anything. Whether you're tearing down a house and rebuilding it, or just improving it, or whatever you're doing. Renovations, improvements, upgrades. Yeah. Keep that in mind, folks. This is crypto. It is volatile. And it's exciting, to be honest. You got to say, this is pretty neat. You wake up, you see your Bitcoin value has jumped up 20% for an hour, and if you sold any, well, good for you. If you didn't, well, good for you too. And whatever your strategy is, I hope it's working for you. So wherever you are, whatever time it is, if you're sleeping, obviously it is later. If it's in the middle of your trading day, well, I hope you're having fun doing some good, smart trades. And if you're a marketer, like you should be, if you're listening to the show, I hope. Because if you're not a marketer, you must be wondering, who talks about marketing? But, well, marketers do. At least I do. Yeah, wherever you are, whatever you're marketing, I hope it's going well for you. I hope you're having a successful day doing that. And until next time, folks, take care.